What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Joshua Berglan, aka the World's Mayor, and welcome to the World's Mayor Experience, Episode 5. Today is going to be epic. I have been so blessed to have already met Noah. I got to interview him probably about a year ago. And I got to tell you something. Noah is one of the smartest people I've ever met. And traditionally, the way I do broadcast is I don't do a lot of research. I don't plan questions. I don't do any of that. My first interview is really just a conversation and getting to know people. That is the case most of the time. In this case, because we're bringing Noah back for a second round, we've actually planned questions. In fact, 21 questions. And 20 of the 21 questions are going to get a lot out of Noah. Noah is one of the smartest people on the planet, and smart in a kind of way that he knows things that other people don't, because that is what he is trained, and his passion is to know. Like, he is driven to know these things that we're going to discuss today. And we're going to get into some really interesting stuff. I'm going to give you an idea of some of the questions. Other than his background and early career, getting into nuclear engineering. We're going to discuss nuclear engineering today, market design, game theory, core disk, white paper. We're going to get into some multimedia, and also we're going to get into some of Noah's future plans. And now listen, when you're dealing with a futurist, when you're dealing with someone that knows the future, knows where we're going, not from a prophetic standpoint, although maybe there's some of that involved, the fact is that with what he's doing, he's able to predict what is going to happen from a very, very, well, knowledgeable place. It's unlike people like myself that get these visions and we can see what's coming. All the little intricate details, they're not there. That's not my background. That's not my education. I don't know about it. I just see things and then I go after it. That is typically how it works. Now, I've gotten myself in a lot of trouble doing that, but because I didn't wait on God, I didn't wait on clarity. Is this the right thing for me? Do I really need to say this right now? Do I need to share my opinion right now? Do I need to share my truth in this moment? I've made a bunch of mistakes doing that, predicting the future and laying things out. And while I stand by a lot of things that I've said, the fact is this: I'm not even real sure what I talked about did any good. The warnings I gave, none of that. But when I talk to people like Noah, the information he's given is factual. It's backed up with factual information, real insight, real wisdom, because this is his expertise. So we're going to get into some really interesting stuff. And frankly, the reason why I had to plan these questions flat out is I'm not educated enough on what he does to be able to ask great questions off the top of my head. So I spent some time, I did some research, and I wrote a bunch of questions down. So you're going to hear me read from that today, which is very uncommon. I may stutter a little bit because I do that when I read out loud. So just know that I'm going to read questions today, and that is new for me because normally I'm flying off the seat of my pants and we can end up in no man's land. So today's interview is going to be very structured, planned, and the reason for that is that you can get the most value and information possible from our guest, Mr. Noah Healy. And again, he's a great dude. He handled all of our juvenile questions really well last time, but I want to have him back, and he is back, and we're going to get into it, and we're going to learn a lot together. Noah's an incredible dude, and you're in for a treat. I want to thank everyone who has supported the World's Mayor Experience so far. So if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, you're watching directly on theworldsmayor.com or even joshuatberglan.com, or listening anywhere in the world on all of the, I think there's probably 20-something podcast platforms. I want to thank you. Our new hosting provider has been absolutely fantastic because it's exposing our podcast to parts of the world that we haven't been before. And that's a huge thing for us. And here's why. Because the World's Mayor Experience goal is to help 500 million people. Now, help is it can be a loose term. Well, our passion is teaching media literacy, but we are also passionate about helping people make sure that they have roofs, a roof over their head, a home, food, clean water, shelter, clothing, the right kind of help that they need. Like, we want to be that resource. Our goal is to help 500 million people all over the world, regardless of your gender, regardless of your sexuality, your religion. It doesn't matter how rich or poor you are. We are here to help in whatever way that we can. And our goal is truly 500 million people. And I've shared my vision before about the world's mayor experience and what this is to evolve into. So I won't spend time doing that now. But our plan, yes, is ambitious, but our plan is very, very doable. And we need your support. So we can't do it without you, whether it's just sharing our videos, whether it's commenting along, whether it's you want to volunteer and you want to be a part of it and help launch this tour. If you have experience with tours, fortunately, I have a team. I have a team that's going to help put this together. They're just not started yet, but that is going to happen very, very soon. But that's very exciting. But look, if you just want to be a part of it, if you want to learn media literacy, if you have goals that you haven't reached yet, reach out to me. Yes, I have services. Yes, I charge for those services, and they are worth the money, I assure you, because they are underpriced for what they should be. But that said, even if you don't have the money to pay for any of my services, I'm more than happy to work out an exchange with you. So value for value. And because there's so many different parts and moving parts, and there's so many different opportunities that media creates, but also, it gives us a lot of different things that we can do. So we can find a way to collaborate together in a productive way where everyone wins. You win, I win, and then the world wins. That is my goal. So if you can't afford to pay for my services, but you are like really interested in taking your career to the next level, then please don't hesitate to reach out. So with that said, I am extremely honored. Today, the way we're going to do this, there's 21 questions. We're going to break this up into multiple segments. So what you'll see through all the video channels and even podcast channels is you'll see the segments broken up, and then you will have one complete episode. I personally like long form content, but then again, I know a lot of you like the shorter stuff. So we're going to break this up in clips because, again, I mean, there's so much wisdom here. There's so much that's going to be taught, and I'm excited to hear it. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome a friend to the show, a friend to me, and somebody that I truly, truly admire, Mr. Noah Healy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World's Mayor Experience. I am so honored to introduce to you, as I talked about in the introduction, Mr. Noah Healy, one of the smartest people on the planet, one of the smartest people I've ever talked to. And today is going to be a little bit different style of interview that I normally do, in that I've planned questions, 21 questions that I feel are going to get the most information out of our amazing guest. And I do highly recommend you guys check out the last interview. It's called The Conversation with Joshua T. Berglan, Noah Healy, and Jessica Lynn. My bride had the opportunity to join, and we had a lot of fun. And it was kind of silly because I think Noah just kind of put up with our silliness and the fact that we really didn't have any great qualifying questions for him. But today, dadgummit, I'm prepared, and I've got a lot of questions, and I'm ready to pick his brain. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man of the hour, or however long this takes, Mr. Noah Healy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's great seeing you again.
It's good to see you. This question doesn't count in the 21 questions, but I would love to know, what are you grateful for today and why?
Well, similar to last time, actually, I'm grateful that I'm on schedule. I very nearly wasn't, so that's always good. But yeah, as I mentioned to you, I just had a fun conversation with a new friend, and have an opportunity to learn more about a branch of mathematics that I've never really been able to get a lot of purchase on. He recommended some books that he loaned to me, and so I'm grateful to have sort of a new opportunity to learn new things.
That's actually exciting. I'm grateful for that as well, because not only do I get to learn from you today, I have discovered several new things that I get to learn and am learning, and it's awesome. Like I feel so blessed to be 44 years old and still have a hunger to learn and having basically information at our fingertips. Not that all of it's good information, but there is still information to be found, and we have the opportunity to learn, which is exciting. So I'm ready to get into these questions. As I told you before, these are planned. So if I stutter while reading, you all can make fun of me. That's fine. But I purposefully wrote these down because, again, I want clear questions, and I want to be efficient, but also just get the most out of Noah because he is a wealth of information. So, Noah, you ready?
Sure.
All right, man. So, can you tell us a bit more about your journey from training in nuclear engineering to working in tech startups during the dot-com boom?
Well, I mean, it was sort of a long accidental process that had some twists and turns, but there's not much to it at the end of the day. So I wound up in nuclear engineering because there was this really good professor that I was sort of following to the classes he was teaching, and he was in the nuclear engineering department. It was the dean of undergraduate engineering students at the time that I was attending UVA, and they were winding down the nuclear engineering department. So there weren't very many classes in the department, but they still had a few. And as the dean, he was teaching them, and he was a good teacher. And I was basically following good teachers into their subjects, and that that got me on the road down nuclear engineering. In terms of getting into tech startups, there was a different road. UVA had a strategic board game club. Uh, I I wandered in one night, found these guys, uh, most of whom weren't students. They actually needed a student, and the student that they had was a grad student at the time, and so they basically adopted me, and got me to keep signing the paperwork. So I was the president of the club as just about the only student for several years. But One of the people that joined the club after I got there was actually the CTO of a local tech startup. And he, like most of us, got very into a game called Settlers of Catan. Um, I think the first four or maybe six national champions actually were members of the club because we started playing Settlers of Catan. One of our members traveled the world and imported games as sort of a sideline. And so we started playing the game a few years before it was available in English editions and common in this country. So, you know, you got a few more years of experience, it's easy to beat other people. And so basically, he'd been losing settlers to me for like 2.5 years, and they were hiring. So he's like, well, you must be smart. How else could I be losing games to you? Uh, Come on down. And so I interviewed, and passed the interviews and got the job.
So, how has that background influenced your current work?
Well, the thing that sort of bounced me into and out of different approaches in engineering, was not really having a plan, and so looking for opportunity and generality. And so the thing about nuclear engineering is that it is the broadest based of the engineering disciplines. There's some mechanical engineering to understand the sort of physics of fluid flow in and out of reactor for cooling and so on. There's some civil engineering for understanding what goes on in site prep and shielding technologies and the concrete that's involved. There's some electrical engineering, because there's not much point in it if you don't have generators and transformers to get out of the thing. And there's systems engineering, because you've got all these things that need to be working together and producing the safety and energy and predictability that are necessary. And then finally, there's nuclear physics, because if you don't understand what sorts of elements and their properties that are being produced, what sorts of radiations exists, and so on, then you don't actually know what questions to be asking and answering about those systems. And all of those things have a wide variety of mathematical and computational disciplines that are attached to them. So, for example, the mathematics of radiation detection is a relatively straightforward sub-branch of statistics, which turns out to be exactly the same sub-branch of statistics that one should master for website analysis and detection, because events on the internet are fully characterizable, randomly distributed, mostly through queuing systems, types of systems. And so just like you can create isolated measurements where you will precisely duplicate mathematical curves of a general nature, so-called Poisson distributions, when determining how many gamma rays a sample of radiation is turned off, you can do precisely the same thing and generate exactly the same curves, determining how many people are simultaneously trying to access your website, which features on a web page are or are not being accessed, and so on.
God, I'm so glad I wrote down questions, because I mean, I should be actually, I can't wait to go back and record that, because now I have about 5 new words I get to go learn about. God, I love talking to smart people, and I love this. And again, even though what you just said is pretty much over my head, I'm one of those people that, like, I don't necessarily, when it comes to book smart, like I have to read the book 4 times to like actually understand what's happening, or even like a YouTube video. I gotta constantly hear it over and over and over again to finally understand it. That has been my life. Yet I have this weird gift that the creator just shows me things, and then I go look, and then that's how I learn, is based off of that. Like the things that I know or see or believe, they're not rooted in anything that came out of a book. And it's like when I speak to people like you, I'm just mesmerized by your knowledge and your wisdom. And it's like, God, I wish I could just like live inside your brain and understand it for a weekend, and I may come out much, much smarter. So again, I'm glad I asked these questions, or I wrote these down, because there's just so much to learn here. Like I don't, this is not a plain question, but you've written a book, right? Like you teach courses, you teach people this stuff, or what are you doing with all this information?
Well, that's the basic challenge. And the answer is, in fact, no, I have not written a book. I don't teach courses. That might be something that would be worth investigating if there was any kind of interest. But the the approach that I take is very much rooted in discovering and then applying basic principles over and over and over and over again. And unfortunately, this is not common, and it leads to a certain amount of mismatch. So very, very frequently, people sort of generate keyword checklists. And so somebody that was interested in, say, website analysis might have a keyword checklist of what whoever did write the most recent book, or the one that they were convinced by, said were the 5 things to look for. And it's very unlikely that that person would say that the thing that you're looking for is understanding Poisson processes and also understanding the breakdowns of Poisson processes. I've only just recently learned about, I need I need to look this up. I the name escapes me. Tracy Whittem Distributions is something that I'm currently sort of looking into learning about, which is an active and open area of mathematics that we're not all that certain about, but it has to do with the limiting properties of infinite processes.
So it sounds like you are like the human version of AI. Is that accurate?
Um,
I mean, well, hold on. Let me explain that statement a little bit. What I mean by that is not to be disrespectful at all, but it's that essentially what AI is doing with information and how it processes the information based on these principles. It almost sounds like your brain does the same thing. Is that accurate?
well, it's the other way around.
Oh,
Existing AI models attempt to model how human brains deal with information. There's something called associative memory. Um, so I actually took an AI class back in the 90s, and the technology has essentially caught up with the theory so that we can actually build these things now. But the idea at that time around these large neural net models was that computer memory was very much an address-based system. So your computer has effectively a very big list of numbers that tells it where on a disk, or these days much more frequently a computer memory chip system, where in that system the specific bits that you're interested in reside. So, for example, when you go back to edit this talk itself, there will be what's known as a file, which is essentially a pointer to the beginning of a big long list of bits. And when that list of bits is turned over to the right kind of software, it will reproduce video and audio of the conversation that we're having. So if you know where what you're looking for is, you tell the computer where that is, and it goes to there and it gives you whatever's there. So it's much like a well-organized library. Every book is on a shelf in a position, and if you have the card catalog that knows where everything is, and if you then, to continue the thing, actually had to know which card in the catalog you were looking for. But the theory is humans have this associational memory that we think about our dad, and then that causes us to think about, the last time we spoke to him and what he smelled like when we were kids, and what his favorite meal is and when his birthday is. And then maybe that spins out his birthday is also some other holiday, and we spin that out in our heads, and then that has associations. And so human associational memory is a lot of what enables our creativity, our genius, our learning, and so on. Now, I am a somewhat extreme case because it turns out that I can't really remember arbitrary information very well. And so I need things to have sensible associations for them to register on my mind at all. And so I consciously work as I'm engaging with information and systems to make sense of those things in a way that is probably actually pedagogically beneficial for human beings. Like, people should probably attempt to learn more like how I have to learn, because it would build up these associations that would allow them to kind of see these connections between things. But the goal of present AI systems is to build into these machines these associations. And so that's the entire goal of the training, is for not to say solve chess or solve English or solve art, but to come up with a way to associate terms and conditions that we can encounter. So here's a chess position. What's a good response to this chess position? Here's a proposal for an essay or a news article. What is an appropriate text to match that news article? Here's a description of a poem or a painting. Give me a poem or a painting that meets the needs of that description.
Man, that is amazing. This is like the last episode we did. I went back and I listened to it multiple times because there's just so much there. With that said, we're going to take a quick break, everyone. We will be right back after these messages.